And we have the Pledge of Allegiance led by Mr. Gene Belisario.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, I'll ask Mrs. Ford to call the roll, please.
Mr. Sharp? Here. Mr. Thompson? Here. Mr. Lorino? Here. Mr. Toledano? Mr. Tanner? Here. Mr. Groby? Here. Mr. Dean?
Here.
Mr. Canulet?
Here.
Mr. Belisario?
Here.
Ms. O'Brien? Here. Mr. Stravanzik?
Here.
Mr. Bender?
Here.
Ms. Blanchard?
Present.
Mr. Smith?
Here.
You have a quorum.
Okay, good. We're going to start off the meeting with presentations. Our first presentation is proclamation to St. Tammany Parish Government Employee of the Month. Ms. Brister.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, for this opportunity. I think when I introduce Mary Ann and tell what she does, she's the favorite of all the employees. And when I read this, you're going to understand why. So, whereas Mary Ann David has been a dedicated employee with St. Tammany Parish Government for 17 years, processing payroll, and is now Senior Payroll Specialist. She makes sure you get your checks on time and correctly. So whereas Mary Ann has an extraordinary ability to organize, effectively communicate, and accomplish every task so that payroll is processed timely and accurately, no matter the circumstances. And whereas Mary Ann is capable of simultaneously performing multiple tasks and meeting multiple deadlines, and whereas Mary Ann is the payroll go-to person in Human Resources Department, she always goes above and beyond what is asked of her and puts the needs of other employees first. And whereas Mary Ann has been instrumental in the ongoing development of the Human Resources Department, and whereas we are very proud to have her in our ranks and thank her for the exemplary performance of her duties. Now, therefore, I, Patricia Brister, President of St. Tammany Parish, do hereby recognize the hard work and accomplishments of Mary Ann David, Employee of the Month, February 2016. And I encourage all employees of St. Tammany Parish to thank her for her contributions and commitment to St. Tammany Parish. Mary Ann, you've been a trooper throughout everything. Thank you so much. Thank you very much. Adrian, did you have something you want to say?
Mary Ann is the bomb. She is awesome. As the newest director for St. Tammany Parish Government, I am so fortunate to have Mary Ann on my team. She is my lifeline, and she would never think about even asking to take vacation when payroll is due, and I know she wouldn't even think about being sick. So she's terrific. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mary Ann. Okay, our next presentation is by Councilman Jerry Bender. It's the introduction of junior council member for February, Mr. Daniel Calamari. Mr.
Thank you,
Bender?
Mr. Chairman.
Sure.
I'm going to have young Daniel stand up here. Daniel is our junior council member of the month for February. He is 11 years old. He's in 5th grade at Our Lady of Lourdes School. He happens to be the class president. So if Mr. Dean gets up, has to go to, the bathroom. You go fill in there.
He can take my place when I get up.
You know what to do, man, huh? I don't think yet, huh? But good young man. He's the third Daniel Calamari in a line. And he happens to be my great nephew. I never said I was his great uncle. Right, Daniel? Don't say anything.
Man,
You're
a few
okay.
words.
Anyway,
Unlike his uncle.
what's that?
I said, man, a few words, unlike his uncle.
Yes, absolutely. This is
teasing.
on my wife's side, Mr. Chairman.
Oh, okay, I got
the
you.
Calamari side.
Gotcha.
Daniel's favorite food is pizza, and he wants to be an electrical engineer when he grows up. Right, Daniel?
Correct.
Can you say that?
An electrical engineer.
Very good. And now let me read this certificate of recognition that's signed by Ms. Pat Brister, that's our parish president, and myself as a member of the parish council, okay? And you can get a little frame and put it on your wall. St. Tammany Parish Government Certificate of Recognition. St. Tammany Parish formally recognizes Daniel Calamari for serving as junior councilman at the February 4th, 2016 Parish Council meeting. And, of course, we all wish you well, and I know that you're a fine young man because I keep my eyes on you. All right, buddy. And he's going to stay
Congratulations.
here. He's going to stay here and watch government run. So there we go.
Okay, everybody keep it civil because we have a child in the room. Okay, presentation of, our next presentation is certificate of recognition to Ms. Lori Pennison for being an accomplished author. Ms. O'Brien.
Well, you know, it's always a privilege and an honor to be up here recognizing individuals, groups, and programs. You know, we know St. Tammany is a very special place, but what makes it extra special are the people. And we have an extraordinary person from St. Tammany that we're going to recognize today. She is my constituent, and she is my friend, Lori Pennison. Now, let me tell you a little bit about Lori's career and her volunteer work and why we are recognizing her today. Lori is currently a sole practitioner in Mandeville. She's an attorney. She was a prior prosecutor in Arizona, also serving as an attorney mentor at the University of Arizona College of Law, and as a moot court trial judge and attorney mentor at Arizona State University College of Law. She served on the board of directors of the Brewster Center for Domestic Violence and as a liaison of the Commercial Interdiction Unit, Narcotics Units for the Maricopa County Narcotics Joint Task Force. That's a lot to say. And president of the Santa Cruz County Bar Association. Now, she's done a lot of community service. She's with the Leadership St. Tammany Board of Trustees currently. She was a Leadership St. Tammany class member of 2015, a co-president of the Mandeville Art Collaborative, the past president of the St. Tammany Art Association, and currently an honorary board member, a coach for boys basketball at Pelican Park for 7 seasons, a coach at St. Paul's mock trial competition team 2011 to president, and Mandeville Middle School PTA Executive Board. Now, in her spare time, she's now an author. And I also know she's an artist, which she did not mention here. But she has 2 novels published with Utopia Press, Pure Death, and its sequel, Pure Justice. She was also selected to appear in the short anthology, Never Fear Christmas Terrors, for her short story, A Cabin in the Woods. She has spoken to writers' groups and is currently scheduled for appearances on panels in February and March. She's been interviewed by Romantic Times magazine about her journey to publication and recently published an article in that magazine. She's also appeared as a guest blogger on numerous romance and suspense reader sites. She's winner of the Dixie Kane Memorial Contest Romantic Suspense category for her unpublished manuscript, Bare Bones, where she also placed second in the same category for her manuscript, The Sweet Death. She is the recipient of the prestigious Daphne du Maurier Award for Excellence in Mystery Suspense, Paranormal, Futuristic category for her debut novel, Pure Death. So if you're noticing, she's a brand new author, and she's won not 1, not 2, but 3 awards. And I'm just amazed that she can do all of this stuff. So we're so honored that you call St. Tammany Parish home, especially Mandeville District 10. But we have this recognition for you, and let me read it. St. Tammany Parish Government Certificate of Recognition. St. Tammany Parish formally recognizes new author Lori Pinnison for her excellence in writing. We congratulate her for winning the prestigious Daphne du Maurier Award for her debut novel, Pure Death. We also congratulate her for winning the Dixie Kane Memorial Contest for her manuscript Bare Bones and placing second for her manuscript The Sweet Death. The Parish Council would also like to recognize Lori Pinnison for her contributions and dedication to public service in our community. Congratulations, Lori. I present award winner Lori Pinnison.
Thank you. I did bring a autographed copy of the book for Maureen, so I wanted to thank you for that. And I brought little cards in case you're all wondering what are they talking about, but I brought little cards so you'd know what the book was. But I do want to thank St. Tammany Parish, which is my adopted home. I moved here 16 years ago with my husband and my son, who I now have two sons, Cray and Anthony, and it is a haven for artists of all types. And when you think of artists, you think of a lot of times just the visual arts, but it is actually a huge home to both writing, literature, music, and the visual arts. And I want to thank you all for St. Tammany Parish's support of the artists in the area. So thank you so much.
Thank you. Presentation by students. Okay, thank you, Maureen. The next presentation is by students in the Young Entrepreneur Academy. Mr. Lorino, you want to say a few words? Turn your light on. Nope. There you go.
It's not there. Anyway, yes, Mr. Chairman, I would definitely like to say a few things. Before I say that, I'd like to read a little bit about Mr. Shelby LaSalle. Mr. LaSalle has acquired the Young Interpreteurs Academy, founded in 2004, which is licensed for West St. Tammany Parish from the University of Rochester, New York, with support from the Kaufman Foundation. He has partnered with Southern Louisiana University and the North Shore Community Foundation to provide 20 West St. Tammany students the opportunity to create their own legal business. This groundbreaking class transforms middle and high school students in our parish into true interpreteurs. The project-based approach empowers students to take charge of their future in a profound way. Mr. LaSalle, would you please come up and introduce these fine students of St. Tammany Parish, please?
Sure, thank you, members of the council. We have half of our student body here, half of these 10 extraordinary students here, and I'll just turn it over to James Estopinall, who's student body president at Hannon, and he'll introduce the students.
Hello, how's everybody doing? I can just kind of congregate around the podium. So to start off, I'd like to thank the council, along with Councilman Dean, Chairman Dean, excuse me, and President Brister, for allowing me to speak tonight. I'm James Estopinall, as Mr. Shelby said. I'm a senior at Archbishop Hannon High School, as well as student body president. I am representing the Young Entrepreneurs Academy, as well as my experience as becoming a young entrepreneur. You know, entrepreneurship and the Young Entrepreneurs Academy is very similar to a roller coaster. In the beginning of starting a business, like a roller coaster, things are slow and sometimes very frustrating. Not everybody wants to hop aboard your idea and go along for the ride. You'll have some that hop on, get afraid, then hop off, and others who just stay along for the ride, never showing any support or excitement. And then you have some who take everything in, put in their input, and make the most out of the ride. In the beginning of the entrepreneurship roller coaster, it can be a long, slow ride to the top. The top can be anywhere from completing your first business plan to completing your first transaction. With every business, like a roller coaster, there are some low points and there are some extremely high points. There are some unexpected curves that cause an entrepreneur to change the way their business operates, and sometimes there is a long, smooth straightaway to success. The Young Entrepreneurs Academy not only helps the youth develop a business, but believe in the youth trying to develop a business. Our wonderful sponsor, Mr. Shelby LaSalle, the informative program manager, Mrs. Carla Mouton, and the gracious room mom, Mrs. Norma Richard, are always upfront and honest when it comes to helping us young entrepreneurs make our great idea a reality. I cannot express my gratitude enough for Mr. LaSalle, Mrs. Carla, and Mrs. Norma for the time, commitment, and funds they put towards us young entrepreneurs. They're kind of like the track to our roller coaster. They guide us through the ups and downs. They're always there to help us move closer to the top. The Young Entrepreneurs Academy helps students develop all sorts of businesses. I know currently in our class we have a bunch of service and product industries businesses. Currently we are in the process of working on our pitch. Our pitch will be how we showcase our businesses to investors. We have wonderful instructors who help direct us along the way. Currently, Mr. Hunt Vaughn is our instructor to help us with the pitch. To come, we have Dr. Randy Moffitt, and previously we had Mr. Ray Seaman as our instructors. Each teacher is a key part to developing and operating a business. The instructors are the ones controlling the business roller coaster. They determine how fast we move and instruct us on the current procedures to keep our business safe and successful. Now, in this class, it's not only seniors in high school who are student body president, but I know we have a range from 6th graders to seniors. As you can see, these are the wonderful students who are in the class. Currently, my business partner, Miss Leah Griner, she's a 7th grader at Cedarwood. Who would think that a senior in high school will be working hand in hand with a 7th grader, getting along successfully and starting a business? I don't think many people think of that. You know, it's amazing that our class has a bunch of different students with different personalities and age. The students are the passengers to the entrepreneur roller coaster. Because like a roller coaster, it's not always the same person on the ride. It's always somebody who's different with a different personality, and they all react differently. But the unique thing about our roller coaster is we're all trying to achieve the same thing, and it's the goal of starting our own business. I thank you for allowing me to speak today, and I invite Mr. LaSalle to come up and say a few words. Thank you.
What an outstanding group of kids.
I'm telling you.
First of all, I'd like to take this opportunity on February 18th at the Center of Inquiry, Christ Episcopal School. We're going to have the CEO roundtable. I'd like to invite you to come and be there as our guest. That's when these students will learn from other CEOs in the area. Also on April 5th, we'll be right here with a Shark Tank sitting up there, an investors panel. And they will do their pitch to this Shark Tank, and they will all get an investor, and their businesses will all be invested into. At the end of the day, they will all have a business invested into and have a product. From this 3-wheel prototype automobile, electric automobile, that will be ready, the prototype will be ready for May, to healthy Lunchables, to curbside grocery, to athletics socks with the various team names on them. Just looking down, we all know what Elf on the Shelf is. Well, now there'll be a bunny on the shelf. New business. But again, I encourage you to come on the February the 8th and also April 5th. Thank you.
Thank you. Future millionaires of St. Tammany, huh? All right. Hopefully not politicians. Our next presentation is presentation to Teresa, is it Risley? Risley, for her years of service on Fire Protection District Number 1. Mr. Stefanczyk.
I'm going to ask the councilmen that represent Fire District 1 to meet us at the podium where we'll make the presentation. They'll bring in. No, you can speak after. No? Okay. You sure?
Wow.
Okay. Okay. All right, everyone. We have a certificate of recognition that was put together by Steve Stefanski and the other members of the Fire District 1 Parish Council members. We only have 6 overseeing one fire district, which is the largest fire district in the parish. It's a St. Tammany Parish Government Certificate of Recognition, whereas the parish government creates boards and commissions which act as political subdivisions in providing services for citizens of this parish, and whereas these boards and commissions are composed of residents appointed by the governing authority who are concerned citizens interested in contributing to effective government and preserving the integrity of St. Tammany Parish. And whereas this governing body desires to recognize those individuals who served as members and contributed to the effective operation of parish boards and commissions. And whereas one such individual is Teresa J. Risley, who has served on the St. Tammany Parish Fire Protection District No. 1 Board of Commissioners for over 12 years. And whereas Teresa Risley is establishing herself as a significant member of this board, was instrumental in decision-making and earned the respect of fellow board members for her commitment and dedication. Now therefore be it remembered that the St. Tammany Parish Council hereby recognizes and expresses sincere appreciation to Teresa J. Risley for her dedicated service to the citizens of this parish during her tenure as a member of the St. Tammany Parish Fire Protection District No. 1 Board of Commissioners. This certificate of recognition was unanimously approved by the St. Tammany Parish Council on the 4th day of February 2016. Congratulations. I'm going to say something first.
I asked Gene to read that, but I want to tell you, for the taxpayers of St. Tammany, and especially Fire District No. 1, there's never been a person that I know that has protected the interest of the taxpayers more than Teresa Risley. And I thank her for that. So thank you, Teresa.
Gosh, thank you so much, Chairman Dean, councilwomen. I really don't know what to say. It's just been such an honor and a privilege, and that sounds so cliche, but there's been a lot of highs and lows on this board. The highs were being able to be around the firemen and seeing what they do on a day-to-day basis. And, you know, they really truly are heroes. They've got integrity and commitment and passion. And so it was a pleasure to get a glimpse of that. The lows, those are like any other organization, and that's when you do have to make that tough decision that's not the popular choice. I know y'all have a long agenda. I could go on and on. I just want to say thank you for the opportunity. It's been a wonderful experience, and I wouldn't change a thing. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Your attention, David, I want to say one other thing about Fire District 1 and Acadian Ambulance. I've been an usher at my church for over 32 years. This past Sunday evening was the first time I had an incident where a parishioner collapsed right at the beginning of the consecration. Pastor looked at me, and I just put my hands in that we're okay. I called 911 and watched for the first time to see the collaborative effort between Fire District 1 EMS people and Acadian Ambulance. It was one of the best things I've ever seen. How Fire District 1 guys come in and start doing the diagnosis. Acadian comes in, they transition. It was totally seamless. Before you knew it, before communion was over, they were gone. Yeah, it was something that made me really proud to see how these two companies are working together. Thank you.
Thank you, Gene. Okay, last month, as you all may know, every January we elect different officers, chairman and vice chairman, et cetera. And so last month, our outgoing chairman. Ordinarily, we usually give some kind of recognition or whatever, and so we were kind of remiss doing that, so we're going to do that this month. I think I already mentioned about what I thought about Mr. Tanner, about how his, as I think what I said was, in a time where everybody tries to be or attempts to be so politically correct that sometimes it's nauseating and shuts down communication. Mr. Tanner has a capability of just kind of cutting straight through it and getting things accomplished, and I truly mean that. So I don't know if anybody else wants to say anything, but Ms. Lopez made sure that I didn't just hand him the box. So here we go.
Mr. Dean? Mr. Dean?
Yes, sir.
Good. Who said, "Oh, God"? You're not supposed to take the Lord's name in vain. Mr. Dean, very quickly, I would just like to say, having been chairman myself a number of times, Mr. Tanner, I just want to say this. This is the easy part, isn't it? It's the day after day behind the scenes, and you know what? For anybody that's ever served as chairman, I thank them. So, Mr. Tanner, I want to thank you.
For those of you who can't see us, it's a very nice gavel with his name engraved, Council Chairman 2015.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
I had heard that they voted and it said that it was not necessary to give me anything. I appreciate it.
Oh, we gave it to him anyway. Thank you, Richard. You know how when you do a touchdown, you slam the football? Maybe that's what happened. I don't know. He slammed his award. Okay, our next and last presentation, Ms. Brister, you're going to, I believe, say Ms. Polly Green with the farmer. Is Polly here? There we go.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is kind of a bittersweet recognition, but we could not let tonight pass, and I think you'll understand as I read. Polly Hamilton Green. Polly grew up here in St. Tammany Parish. She graduated from Mandeville High and went on to earn a journalism degree from the University of Arkansas. She worked for several newspapers in the South and even tried her hand at television news, but came back to print, her love. She married Ron Green, and his career in the U.S. Air Force brought them to Germany, where Polly worked for the base newspaper. After her travels in Europe, Polly came back to St. Tammany, thankfully. She joined the Farmer in 2006 as the editor, where she covered local politics, hurricanes, and other natural disasters. And most importantly of all, interesting people and events here in St. Tammany. She has been a mentor to many reporters to their trade, and she is considered a community advocate and cheerleader for St. Tammany Parish. She has always been fair and balanced reporter, and we appreciate that more than we can say. As Polly retires on February 25th of 2016, her colleagues wish her the best and hope she will continue as a freelance contributor. We want to congratulate you, Polly, and thank you for a storied career that you have served here in St. Tammany, and we wish you the very best in your retirement.
I wish you the best, too.
And you have to say something.
As a wife of a military man, I said goodbye to a lot of people, and this is the way I sign off. Happy trails. I'll see you around. Thank you very much, and thank you for returning my phone calls when I needed you.
Thank you, Polly.
This was our idea. Okay. We decided. Okay, thank you, Polly.
Okay, our next section of our meeting is a consent calendar. These are items that are introduced. Any items not pulled from the consent calendar are automatically approved in whole by one vote. Items pulled from the consent calendar are discussed and voted upon individually. I do have 5 ordinances and 3 resolutions already asked to be pulled. The first one is the number 1, item 5516, or ordinance 5516, I'm sorry. The second one is the number 2, ordinance calendar number 5517. The next one is number 3, ordinance calendar number 5527. The next one is number 11, ordinance 5535. The next one is number 12, 5536. Under resolutions, I have resolution number 23, 4524, and number 24, 4525, and 25, 4526. With that being said, I'm going to go down and ask everyone here on the council if they have any items they would like to pull. Mr. Sharp, Mr. Thompson, Mr. Lorino, Mr. Toledano. Okay. Mr. Tanner?
Order count number 6, 5530.
Okay. Mr. Groby? All right. Mr. Canulet? Mr. Belisario? Ms. O'Brien? Mr. Stefancic? Mr. Bender? Ms. Blanchard? And Mr. Smith? Okay, anyone
Move to
from the...
approve the,
Okay.
oh,
Can I do this part?
I guess you want to ask from the
Thank you.
public first.
Anyone from the audience have anything? Any items?
I'd like to know why they're being pulled. What does that mean?
What it means is they're being pulled to be discussed. Ordinarily, instead of going down each one of them, what we do, any of the ones that need to be discussed. Yes, ma'am.
Move to approve consent calendar.
Okay, I have a motion to approve this consent calendar by Mr. Stefancic.
I have another one, which was 5508.
Okay, now that's on the ordinance to be adopted.
Right.
Correct? This, right now, we're on consent calendar.
Okay. So
All right.
do I need to address,
I'm sorry?
discuss?
Right. Yeah, all of them, all of the ordinances to be adopted will be discussed, or can be discussed. Okay, so I have a motion to accept the consent calendar by Mr. Stefancic, second by Mr. Belisario. Any discussion? Vote with your lights, please.
Motion is unanimous, no one absent.
Okay. Okay, the first item that is pulled, that's to be discussed is ordinance calendar number 5516, ordinance amending the official parish zoning map to reclassify 57.4 acres from A2 to A4. That's Ward 3, District 2. I have a card. I'll have 1 and 2, all of them. Okay. We have Miss Linda Ray to begin with. Keep in mind, everyone has 2 minutes. Ms. Ray? Mr. Sharp is our timekeeper and sergeant at arms, parliamentarian, I'm sorry. We don't need one of those.
Before I start, I'd like to let you all know that you all have a letter and a newspaper article with regard to this. I'd like you to look at.
All right, go ahead.
Ladies and gentlemen of the council, Madam President, and distinguished guests, my name is Linda Ray, and I live in Singing Rivers, and would like to make a few statements regarding the proposed subdivision on Harrison. We who live there have some concerns, the first being drainage and flooding. Last week, we met with several people and an engineer with the project, and it was discussed that studies had to be made, and they had to make sure the drainage was 25% better than it was before they started, and that the water would be directed to the river. Now, this all sounds good and looks good on paper, but let's face it, life is never how it looks on paper, because if it was, everyone in here would pull out a paper and pen and write themselves a perfect life. Then at the end of the meeting, it was mentioned that the parish was thinking of buying the property between Singing Rivers and a proposed subdivision to put in a large pond to help alleviate the flooding. I am not an authority on ponds, but the pond the parish put in on Harrison and Honeysuckle is a joke. It does absolutely nothing to help drainage, and it's nothing more than a mosquito trap. And we have recently become aware of the nudism problem with mosquitoes and expectant mothers. Accountability. We all hear a lot of that today. Now I ask you, just what does that mean? Since all of you have been made aware of our concerns, and I assume it is being documented, just who is accountable to us if our properties flood? Is it the parish council, the parish, the developer, or who and where do we turn to get compensation? Then there is the traffic on Harrison. Something should have been done years ago to accommodate the traffic on Harrison, such as making it 4 lanes and putting in another cut-through between 190 and 59, which would have significantly alleviated some of our concerns we are faced with. And now, if this project goes through, you would be allowing 138 more homes to be built there with at least 2 vehicles per home, perhaps even more with teens driving, and some may even have family members living there with additional vehicles on Harrison. We were also told in our meeting last week that a traffic study would be done, but we all know how numbers work. Let's play out this scenario. There is a horrific accident on Harrison, and at that precise moment,
Ms.
another
Ray.
tragedy.
Sorry, Ms. Linda. Ms. Ray, 2 minutes are up.
They're up.
Yeah, you can wrap up.
Can I finish?
Yes, ma'am. Just so long as you don't go very much
There's a
further.
horrific accident on Harrison, and at that precise moment, another tragedy strikes, such as a heart attack, fire, or shooting. And because the emergency vehicles could not reach these victims in a timely fashion because of traffic and the infrastructure, one or more of these victims expire. Now let's take this a little further. Supposedly the victim or victims is a dear friend or a beloved family member. How would you feel knowing that you allowed this
Ms.
to
Ray,
happen?
I'm going to ask you to wrap up.
Okay. All right. Well, I would
Because we
like to
have 3
thank
other
you for,
people.
I'd like to thank you for listening to our concerns and carefully considering all that I've outlined to you. And when it comes before you to vote, please deny it. And all of your constituents will be most grateful knowing that you place their well-being and safety first and foremost, instead of just a few
Thank you.
individuals who stand to make a profit from this project, walk
Thank you,
away,
Ms. Ray.
leaving
you.
us with the headache. Thank you.
Certainly. Okay, I have, Mr.
I'd like to ask for a show of hands, how many people are here opposing this project? Please raise your hand if you're opposing.
Okay, Ms. Ray, I'm running the meeting, not you. Could you please have a
sir, I
seat?
realize
Thanks. All right. Okay, Mr. Wayne, because the more you all do this, then the less time we have for other people to talk. Mr. Wayne Hilliard, you have 2 minutes.
Thank you. My name is Wayne Hilliard, and I live at 100 Wild Azalea in Singing Rivers Estates. Good evening, Madam President, Mr. Chairman, and honorable council members. My family's been in St. Tammany since the 70s, and my wife's family's been here since the 30s. Thank you for allowing me to have a voice in this proceeding, and to Councilman Sharp for setting up the meeting last week. Our parish government mission statement is to provide an enhanced service that support the health, safety, and quality of life for our residences in a responsible way. The proposed development is 130 units on 40 acres of developed property, meaning 3.4 homes per developed acre. In 1995, the scenic Abita River overflowed its banks and came into our neighborhood, as well as Arrowwood Estates, our neighboring neighborhood, and flooded many homes. Who will decide and be responsible to maintain the retention area? Make sure the low-flow orifice is not clogged, repair erosions, remove sediment, maintain vegetation. Maintenance is scheduled as per complaint by residents. There is no schedule routine done by the parish. The order status reports for Public Works suggest the parish is struggling to complete thousands of repairs that maintenance in areas is already servicing. And we need to rezone A2 to a higher density. Our quality of life, health, safety are in jeopardy. Traveling Harrison is anxiety producing and dangerous of the safety of drivers, emergency responders, pedestrians, and who still walk the edges of the ditches. There is nowhere for vehicles and school buses to give the right-of-way. Chief Jason Billich gave us the facts of public records. Fire Station 125 on Harrison began service August 1st, 2015. As of yesterday...
Mr. Hilliard?
Yes, sir.
You need to wrap it up.
Yes, sir. They ran 368 calls via Harrison. 368. We are asking that you all please, if you can't vote no, please send it back to zoning. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for being respectful of the time. Okay, Mr. Jeffrey Martin. Jeffrey Martin.
Thank you. I appreciate you all giving me the 2 minutes. My name is Jeffrey Martin. I live at 71051 Reed Lane. I am directly adjacent to the Big A property on the west downriver side, so I'm more than a bit concerned about how this property gets developed and how it affects the value of my adjacent property and those of my neighbors. I don't believe there's anybody here that has a problem with Miss Big A developing her property. The wisdom of the parish was unambiguous and clear in their prior zoning of this property as A2 Suburban District. That, of course, means a maximum of 1 house per acre, lot size 40,000 square feet, 150-foot minimum lot width, 50-foot setbacks, 15 feet on each side, 25 feet in the back, and the house doesn't take up more than 15% of the lot. Via the St. Tammany Parish Unified Development Code, the purpose of A2 Suburban District zoning is, quote, to preserve the character of the area through low density. I believe everybody here desires to protect the character of the area. The adjacent prior developers on the north side of Harrison Street have understood this and lived with these parish zoning requirements. There's no reason to change this zoning other than the fact that developers and their interested parties believe they can make a lot more money. It's not in the parish's long-term interest to change this zoning because smaller lot sizes means increased density, means lower property values, lower property taxes, increased demands on parish services. In the contrast, larger lot sizes equals lower density, larger property values, higher property taxes, fewer demand on parish services. Very simple. Let's not forget there's a homestead exemption of $75,000, so a house with little value above this pays little to no tax. Has there been other questions? A traffic impact study done on this? I see no record of one being performed, and this is a major 57-acre development. The traffic on Harrison already backs up from Highway 190 all the way to this planned property development every morning. It's very difficult to cross Harrison. I live on Reed Lane. It crosses Harrison. You can't hardly do it in the morning. Also, an evacuation zone study and an environmental impact study should be done on this before it's approved. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Thank you. Mr. Keith Cangelosi. Mr. Keith Cangelosi.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
this motion hasn't been introduced yet, and we're talking about the merits of this. There's not going to be any action taken on this tonight, and I think people ought to know that. No matter what they say, nothing's going to happen tonight. It's, they can come before the council next month during either our hearings, a week ahead of time on the agenda review, or at the council meeting at that time to express their concerns. Tonight, all we're going to do is do an introduction of this ordinance. And,
Okay.
And either way, we've got to either introduce or not introduce. That's the only two choices we have tonight. I would think that they need to understand that they're really talking at the wrong meeting.
Okay. So everybody understand what he was saying? This item is what happens if it goes before the zoning commission, gets approved or denied. If it gets approved, then it comes to us for to be introduced. And then it has to be laid over for 30 days, and then it's actually voted on, considering there's no appeal, it is actually voted on in 30 days. So this is an item to be introduced. So when we pull the item, we usually don't have this much discussion on an introduction because you will get another opportunity next month to, all right. So I'm going to allow, since you've already up here, I'm going to allow this and let's go on. And I believe, Mr. Marone, did you have something? Mr. Cangelosi?
Well, should we continue?
Sure.
My name is Keith Cangelosi. I live at 98 Pine Oak Drive. I have 25 acres on the Abita River north of the BA property. upriver from her. I bought the property in 1988. I built my home in 1991. I built it above the 100-year floodplain. Every year, I've watched the Abita River get higher and higher after smaller and smaller rainfalls. My house has been flooded twice. Every time a planned urban development gets approved and the drainage goes to the Abita River, it only has so much carrying capacity. It can't do any more. You can't clean it out because it's a state scenic river. So the more river water that's diverted to the river just backs up onto our property. This is a high-density development. Not only is the river limited in its carrying capacity, Harrison Avenue is limited in its carrying capacity. This high-density development will create problems both on the river and on Harrison Avenue. And I urge you to please send this back to Miss Begay and Darling Properties to restrict the size of it, reduce it to its current zoning levels, and please consider us, the people who have to live there and have to live with your decision on flooding and traffic problems. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Morone.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Very briefly, I appreciate Mr. Stefansik's comments that this is not an appeal hearing. This is a matter of introduction, so I'll be very, very brief. This matter was recommended approved by your staff. It was unanimously approved by your zoning commission. It was not appealed at all. The 90% of the comments tonight were about drainage and traffic, which are not relevant at the zoning stage. As you well know, there is a very extensive planning stage where each of those items has to be looked at in detail with detailed studies that will be presented to your staff and to your commission and perhaps to you on appeal. So any comments regarding drainage and traffic, I would respectfully suggest are premature at this point in time. With regards to density, the gentleman talked about preserving the character of the area. I would tell you that the density we propose, 2.4 units per acre, is less dense than the vast majority of the properties along Harrison Avenue. Everything on the south side is much more dense. Almost everything other than Singing River is A4 or more dense. That density is greater than we are proposing. This development will be the least dense development on Harrison Avenue, save one, Singing River. The character of Harrison Avenue would suggest a density much greater than we are proposing. I would respectfully request that you introduce this matter tonight. I'll be happy to be here next month to talk about these issues in more detail. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Morone. Okay. Mr. Sharp?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. We have had one meeting with a small group of residents from this area, and after tonight, I will be asking for another meeting, either next week or the following week, some during the interim time between now and the next meeting. Tonight, we're going to introduce these two only so that we can bring them up and so that we can begin working on them more intensely than we have in the past. We are not passing them permanently. We are not taking action on them, understand that. Okay, that will be reserved for some time in the future. We're going to meet with you extensively between now and then to find some resolution to some of your concerns. What we're going to need from you is to listen, and we're going to need a level of cooperation. As I've said in the past, that's what makes government function. Demands do not do it. Cooperation at the table is what does it, okay? So we will be having some meetings in the future. We will get the word out as much as we can. I know I've talked a lot with Ms. Ray. She can be the point person. Whoever you want to talk to me tonight, we'll find a point person, give me some contact information. We'll get the word out to you when we have the meeting set up. Everyone will be here, and we'll address your concerns individually at that time, okay? And I move to introduce.
Okay, I have a motion to introduce. Do I have a second? Second by Mr. Canulette. Vote with your lights, please. I'm sorry, the introduction. Okay. Okay, the next item is ordinance calendar number 5517, ordinance amending the official parish zoning map to reclassify 57.4 acres from A4 to A4 and PUD. This is the same item. I'm assuming we have the same issues. I don't have any other cards. Mr. Sharp?
Move to introduce.
Motion to introduce, second by Mr. Canulet. Okay. All right. So you all understand that it's been introduced, and then he's going to call a meeting, and then it'll be brought back up next month. All right. Okay, the next item to be pulled is ordinance calendar number, it's number 3, ordinance calendar number 5527, ordinance to amend 2016 operating budget. Ms. Leslie.
Mr. Chairman, we would like to amend this ordinance prior to introduction. I think each of you have a copy of the revised ordinance, and if you have any questions, I can answer those.
Okay, any questions? We got to move to amend? Okay, you made a motion? All right. Mr. Stefancic made a motion to amend, seconded by Mr. Belisario. Okay, all right. Bow your lights.
Motion is unanimous, no one absent.
Okay, now I need a motion to introduce
Move to introduce the amendment.
by Mr. Stefancic, seconded by Mr. Belisario. Okay. Next item pulled was item number 6. Number 5530, ordinance to revoke a portion of F Street right-of-way located in the Alexisville subdivision, Ward 3, District 2. Mr. Tanner.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to introduce, please.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion by Mr. Lorino to introduce, seconded by Mr. Tanner.
Mr. Dean, if you don't mind, I'd like the record to reflect that I recuse myself on this particular motion.
Okay. So noted. All right. So we have, all right, so next item we have is order calendar number 5535. This is number 11, ordinance to amend the St. Tammany Parish Code of Ordinances, Chapter 2, Administration, Article 3, Parish Council, to add a new section entitled Council Personnel.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
I move that we remove this from the agenda.
Okay, there's a motion to remove this item from the agenda, and that's by Mr. Stefancic, second by, I got Mr. Belisario down here, second by Mr. Belisario. I have a couple of cards. Please understand that this was at the request of the negotiation team, which of course included District Attorney Warren Montgomery and Mr. Tanner and a few others. We've been decided to remove this item, so what we will discuss, and just please keep the discussions, again, it's going to be 2 minutes. What we'll discuss is actually the item about whether we remove it or not. What's going to happen is if it comes back up again, and with the negotiations are continuing, this is going to be this one and the one afterwards, and we'll discuss that in a second. But when it comes back again, then we'll have discussion on that item in future months if it comes back. So I have the first. Please keep in mind you have 2 minutes. The first person is Mr. Gary Leonard. This is on 5535.
Gary Leonard, 675 Kiskatown, Mandeville. Actually, kind of speaking to both, so I guess they were their companion ordinances. Of course, well, the people that are here don't realize there's much more to these ordinances online, and obviously not printed here in type, and much more legalese online if anyone wants to go online and look at them. When they are written, though, obviously I know Ms. Brister and yourself are authored, but I know you don't author it. Who in particular and specifically authors the actual ordinance itself?
Does that have to do with what's actually pulling the item?
No, I was just curious who authors them, because obviously it's much more legal type online than, the obvious.
I'm not sure what you're
I guess who writes it? Who writes the ordinance?
Who writes it? Our legal team.
Okay. Thank you. That's all I want to know.
I'm glad we had that conversation. Thank you. All right. So then we have Mr. Carlo Hernandez. He's waving us off. Thank you, Carlos. Mr. Carl Ernst? Okay. All right, y'all are making this too easy. Paula Bourne, Miss Paula Bourne? Okay, you have 2 minutes, Miss Bourne.
Thank you. It's Paula Bourne, 4466 Pontchartrain, Slidell. In October 2015, the citizens of St. Tammany voted down the overwhelming proposition number 5, okay, which pertains to these two, whereby supporting our current Home Rule Charter Constitution, which clearly states the District Attorney Office is to provide legal representation for both the executive branch and the Parish Council. Since the election, there has been the obvious undercurrent of pushback from our parish government, which created the backdoor approach to circumvent the Home Rule Charter, and we will the people by attempting to introduce newly proposed ordinance 5535 and 5536. CCST is absolutely opposed to both these ordinances as they are clearly a violation of the Home Rule Charter and a slap in the face to the citizens that voted overwhelmingly not to support the parish attempt to create their own legal department. I would like to ask a simple question.
Ms. Bourne, I'm sorry, go ahead. Okay, the subject is whether we need to pull these or not the actual, because as the item, as I discussed a second ago, the action is to pull these, to remove them, while we continue to discuss with the DA.
Well,
You
they should be
understand that?
pulled because we all voted no for it.
Okay, so that's your point.
Overwhelmingly.
Okay.
Thank you
And
very
there,
much.
and there's an action to pull, so that's what we're going to do, or
Thank
we're going to
you.
vote on that. Yes, ma'am. Okay, Mr. Jim Blazek, B-L-A-Z-E-K. I'm sorry if I'm saying that wrong. Is he here? All right, Mr. Court Hutchinson? Okay. All right, so we have a motion to remove item number 5535. Any further discussion? Okay. Seeing none, vote with your lights, please.
Motion is unanimous, no one absent.
All right. No applause? Okay. Thank you. There's one. Ordinance calendar number 5536, ordinance to amend ordinance section 2-091 and section 2-092 of the St. Tammany Parish Code of Ordinances for the reorganization of parish departments.
Move to remove.
I have a motion by Mr. Stefancic and second by Mr. Belisario to remove. I have no cards. Any discussion? Vote with your lights, please.
Mr. Groby had meant to hit the yes button. The motion is,
Here we have
well, Ms. Blanchard, did you mean to abstain?
abstain.
You are, okay. Then we have 13 yeas and 1 abstention.
All right. Continuing on, the resolution, next item to be pulled from the consent calendar is resolution number CS 4524, resolution to concur or not concur with the City of Slidell annexation and rezoning 28.006 acres from Parish ED 1 to Slidell A6. That's Ward 8, District 8. Mr. Chris. Okay, I have a motion to concur and seconded by Mr. Belisario. Vote with your lights, please. Do you want to?
Motion is unanimous, no one absent.
Okay. Item number 24, next to be pulled is resolution CS number C 4525, resolution to concur or not concur with the City of Slidell annexation and rezoning of .377 acres from Parish HC2 to Slidell C4, Ward 9, District 12. Mr. Bender.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion to concur.
Okay, do I have a second? I have a motion by Mr. Bender and a second by Mr. Canulet. Any discussion? Blow your lights, please.
Motion is unanimous, no one absent.
Okay, last item to be pulled is Resolution CS number C4526, a resolution to concur or not concur with the Covington annexation and rezoning of .92 acres from Parish A4 to Covington RS2, Ward 3, District 3. I have a second. I have a motion by Mr. Thompson to concur and seconded by Mr. Canulet. Any discussion? Seeing none, vote with your lights, please.
Motion is unanimous, no one absent.
All right, that's it for the consent calendar. We're going to continue on with the appeals. Let's see, first appeal is Victor Abel appealing the Zoning Commission denial on January 5th, 2016 to reclassify 2 acres located on the west side of LA 59 north of Oswald Road from A1A Suburban District to A2 Suburban District, Ward 10, District 2. Mr. Abel, Victor Abel? How are you, sir? You Mr. Abel?
They told me last time to shut my mouth.
Well, tell me your name and where you live.
Victor Abel. I live at on Oswald Road, 21445 Oswald Road.
Okay. Let me just tell you what happens is you have 5 minutes. The appellate has 5 minutes, and any opponent has 5 minutes. Then you have 2 minutes apiece of a rebuttal. Okay. So you can speak a total of 7 minutes, but you have 5 minutes now.
Well, the only thing I have to say is, should I say anything?
Hang on, Mr. Sharp.
No, I just wanted to go ahead and make a motion. You want it now?
Sure.
Move to
Is there an
override.
agreement with you all?
Move to
Okay.
override.
Okay, so we're going to cut to the chase and override, okay?
So now I can shut up and sit down?
You can. You sure can. Okay, I have a motion to override the zoning commission denial and by Mr. Sharp and seconded by Mr. Tanner. Any further discussion? Seeing none, vote with your lights.
Motion is unanimous, no one absent.
Okay, now I need a motion to introduce the ordinance. By Mr. Tanner, second by Mr. Sharp. All right. Number 2, Jessica Lacey appealing the zoning commission denial on January 5th, 2016 to reclassify 2.88 acres located at the northeast corner of North Park Boulevard and Park Place, being 114 North Park Boulevard, Covington, and HC2 Highway Commercial District to HC2A Highway Commercial District, Ward 3, District 5. Mr. Toledano.
Mr. Dean, thank you very much. I've had some conversations with both the proponent of the rezoning as well as the parties in interest in the nearby neighborhoods. There's a desire on those parties to sit and meet and see if there could be some compromise worked out. On that basis, I would move that this matter be tabled.
Postpone?
Postpone, thank you very much.
Okay. I have a motion by Mr. Toledano, seconded by Ms. O'Brien. Okay.
Vote on the table first, correct.
Okay, there's no discussion on this. Vote with your lights, please.
Thank you, thank you.
Motion is unanimous, no one absent.
Okay, so Mr. Mathis, Sarah Lee Mathis, it's tabled? Yes. Okay, good.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Okay. We're finished with the appeals. We're going to ordinances for adoption. Ordinance calendar, this is number 1, ordinance calendar number 5476, ordinance amending the official parish zoning map to reclassify 6.3 acres from A3 to NC3 District 5.
Again, Mr. Dean, in this particular case, we've been informed by the applicant that their desire is to remove and withdraw their application. On that basis, I believe the appropriate motion is to remove from the agenda, if that's correct.
Okay, it is. I have a motion to remove by Mr. Toledano, seconded by Mr. Thompson. Any discussion? Seeing none, vote with your lights, please.
Motion is unanimous,
Yeah, I didn't.
one absent.
Okay. Second item is ordinance calendar number 5502, ordinance establishing a no parking zone on Windsor Court. That is Ward 9, District 11.
Move to postpone for 2 months.
It's a motion by Mr. Stefanczyk to postpone for 2 months, seconded by Mr. Canulet. Any discussion? Vote with your lights, please.
Mr. Sharp? Motion is unanimous, one absent.
Okay, ordinance calendar number, this is number 3, ordinance calendar number 5504, ordinance to amend ordinance council series number 00-0174, 05-1049. Huh? I don't need to read all of it. All right. To provide for amendments to the personnel policies pertaining to benefits, annual leave, and sick leave. Motion by Mr. Tanner, second by Mr. Belisario. Any discussion? Okay, seeing none, vote with your lights, please.
Motion is unanimous, one absent.
Okay, fourth item, ordinance calendar number 5508, ordinance ratifying the amendment of the St. Tammany Parish Home Rule Charter as approved by the voters November 21st. Introduced 11416.
Move to approve.
Motion by Mr. Stefanczyk to approve, second by Mr. Belisario. Mr. Hutchison.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and council members. Allow me the opportunity. I'm Court Hutchison. I live at 28498 Lake Drive, south of Lacombe. I'm interested in a confirmation of my interpretation of item G on this ordinance, where it says, "The council shall provide by ordinance a procedure whereby interested persons shall be given an opportunity to be heard at council meetings on any matter relating to parish government and on the meeting agenda." My My interpretation is that if the intent of item G was to allow the citizens to only speak to items on the agenda, that it would not have included the word "and." It would have read, "and any matters relating to parish government on the meeting agenda." So my understanding is that citizens shall have the opportunity to speak on matters relating to parish government and on the meeting agenda. Is my interpretation correct, please?
Chairman, you want me to answer that or him?
I can answer that.
I can answer that.
Who wants to? Yeah.
Yes, since I
Mr.
have-
Tanner or Mr.
since-
Stefanczyk?
Since I was on the Charter Commission and helped draft that language, the answer is we want people to be aware of what's on our agenda, and therefore people can come and talk about it. And we're not interested in having things brought up that are not on the agenda to be discussed where people may have different opinions out in the public and don't know that it's going to be discussed that night. Our interpretation of "and" is it has to meet both criteria.
Mr. Tanner, you got anything?
Well, my response to that, it really doesn't matter what it said, it got defeated by the public, so.
I beg your pardon.
This is the one that passed.
I'm sorry, you're right, this is the only one that passed.
This is the only one
out of 9 that
I
passed.
said that.
Okay.
Momentary seizure on this item.
I got you.
Well, if I may continue.
Sure.
If I can revert to the verbiage that preceded this, the same item G, said that the council shall provide by ordinance a procedure whereby interested persons shall be given an opportunity to be heard at council meetings on any matter related to parish government. The public's understanding, to the best of my knowledge, is that this ordinance and that proposition on the poll, at the polls that they voted on, was to implement this item that the parish shall develop an ordinance whereby the citizens can speak on any matter relating to parish business, which is why I have interpreted this, and that I interpret, and many others interpret this, that it says matters relating to parish government and on the meeting agenda. It clearly says parish government and on the agenda. So I'm confused and disheartened that this is restricted to only agenda items when the intent and the understanding that the voters voted on was to implement this ordinance as required by the Home Rule Charter to allow the citizens to speak on any matter relating to parish government.
And if you want my opinion, I think of course, personal opinion is that I think the voters didn't understand a lot of those amendments. But Mr.
Chairman,
Stamonte?
we have that ordinance in place, and it tells you how to get something on the agenda. And if you follow that ordinance, you can get something on the agenda to come before this council. And that included, was taken into consideration when the Charter Commission met. So that ordinance is there today. It's been there for several years, how to get something on this agenda and to speak before this council. And we followed that for years and years and years. This has said, again, this charter amendment says we're not going to allow people to come up here and start talking about things that are not on the agenda, which people are not aware of and haven't been advertised to the public. That's what the Charter Commission discussed, and that's what we adopted.
Okay, Mr. Belisario.
I had a community meeting before the November ballot, okay? Went through all 9 home rule charters. This one I emphasized to the people where there, the addition of those 5 words is the fact that the item had to be on the agenda if you wanted to speak on it. If you wanted an item to speak on, you had to contact your council person, then he would work with the chairman to put that item on the agenda. So that, to me, gave clarity to what the process was. And you're right, it was the only one that was passed. And I told people, if this passed, then what you're going to look at is, if you're thinking you can just go up here and talk, you lose that right. But people voted for this. It was close, but it doesn't matter. It's what the people voted for.
Okay. Yes, sir. You ready? All right. Anyone else? Mr. Tanner, your light's on. You done?
May I ask just one question?
Certainly. Go ahead.
Then I understand that the citizenry has an opportunity to contact their council person for any subject. Is there an opportunity for the public to come and address the council at large on matters of parish government?
And not as it stands, Mr. Savant, you want to?
Well, Mr. Dean, I would like to remind Mr. Court that the agenda for a council meeting has items on it that are sponsored by council members as pursuant to council rules. If a citizen would like to address the council on a matter pertaining to parish government, all they have to do is to request a council member to sponsor them as a speaker or their item on the agenda, to have it placed on the agenda, and they can speak on it. And that in turn gives other people within the community an opportunity to know that that topic is going to be discussed at the council meeting, and if they would like to make comment on it as well, they'll have an opportunity to do so.
Very good. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay,
we have a...
Dean, may I just add also that we would invite any citizen at any time to come speak at our agenda review. which is, although it's not the full council, it is a number, and that's not restricted. And so we do welcome and want to hear your comments.
That's a good point.
Thank you.
That's a great point. Okay, I have a motion and a second. Vote with your lights, please.
Motion is unanimous, no one absent.
Okay, next item is number 5, ordinance calendar number 5509, ordinance to amend the 2016 operating budget amendment number 1. Motion by Mr. Belisario, seconded by Mr. Stefanczyk. Any discussion? Vote with your lights, please.
Motion is unanimous, no one absent.
Okay, sixth item, ordinance calendar number 5510, ordinance to establish the 2016 grant budget. Motion by Mr. Tanner, second by Mr. Stefanczyk. Any discussion? Seeing none, vote with your lights, please.
Motion is unanimous, no one absent.
Seventh item, ordinance calendar number 5511, ordinance to extend for 6 months the moratorium on multifamily structures on property within unincorporated areas of Council District 12.
Mr. Chairman, so moved.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Bender. Motion by Mr. Bender, second by who, I'm sorry? Mr. Stefanczyk. Any discussion? If seeing none, vote with your lights, please.
Motion is unanimous, no one absent.
Okay, eighth item, ordinance calendar number 5513, ordinance to impose a 6-month moratorium on property within a defined area within unincorporated boundaries of Ward 3, District 5. We have a motion by Mr. Toledano, District 5, to adopt, and who was the second? Mr. Lorino. All right. Any discussion? All right, vote with your lights, please.
Motion is unanimous, no one absent.
Ninth item, ordinance calendar number 5514, ordinance to declare multiple tax adjudicated properties as surplus property and authorize the parish to proceed with the process for the advertising and sale of such adjudicated properties. Motion by Mr. Tanner, second by Mr. Belisario. Any discussion? Seeing none, vote with your lights, please.
Motion is unanimous, no one absent.
Okay, 10th item in ordinance calendar number 5515, ordinance changing the name of the parish transit service to Star Transit. Motion by Mr. Belisario, second by Mr. Toledano. Any discussion? Okay, vote with your lights, please.
Motion is unanimous, one absent.
Okay, ordinance calendar number 5518, ordinance amending the official parish zoning map to reclassify 4.2 acres from A1 to A2, Ward 1, District 3. Motion by Mr. Thompson, seconded by Mr. Tanner. Any discussion? Okay, seeing none, vote with your lights, please.
Motion is unanimous, one absent.
Okay, 12th item is ordinance calendar number 5519, ordinance amending the official parish zoning map to reclassify .83 acres from A4 to A4 and MHO, District 7.
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Groby, second by Mr. Tanner. Any discussion? Seeing none, vote with your lights, please.
Motion is unanimous, one absent.
Okay, 13th item, ordinance calendar number 5521, ordinance amending the official parish zoning map to reclassify 1.32 acres from NC1 and HC2 to HC2. That's Ward 4, District 4. District 4. Mr. Lorino moved and Mr. Thompson seconded. Any further discussion? Seeing none, vote with your lights, please. Okay.
Motion is unanimous, one absent.
No, yeah, I got that. Okay, 14th item, ordinance calendar number 5522, ordinance amending the official parish zoning map to reclassify .91 acres from A3 to A4, Ward 1, District 1. Thank you, Mr. Thompson. Motion by Mr. Thompson, second by Mr. Tanner. Any discussion? Okay, vote with your lights, please.
Motion is unanimous, one absent.
Okay, ordinance, the 15th item, ordinance calendar number 5523, ordinance amending the official parish zoning map to reclassify 20,000 square feet from A3 to A3 and MHO, Ward 6, District 6. Motion by Mr. Tanner, seconded by Mr. Lorino. Any discussion? Vote with your lights, please.
Motion is unanimous, one absent.
Okay, ordinance calendar number 5524, ordinance amending the official parish zoning map to reclassify 1.452 acres from A4 to PF1, Ward 9, District 14.
Mr. Chairman, we move to adopt.
Okay, motion by Mr. Smith to adopt, second by Mr. Belisario. Any discussion? Vote with your lights, please.
Mr. Toledano? Motion is unanimous, one absent.
Okay, ordinance calendar number 5525, ordinance to amend parish code to add new sections provided for operation of motorized vehicles and enforcement of traffic controls on private streets within the Maison du Lac subdivision, Ward 1, District 1. Was somebody, okay, motion by Mr. Stefanczyk, do I have a second? Thank you, Mr. Groby. Any discussion? Vote with your lights, please.
Motion is unanimous, one absent.
Okay, 18th item, ordinance calendar number 5526, ordinance amending the official parish zoning map to reclassify 1.3 acres from A3 to NC1, Ward 1, District 1. Motion by Mr. Stefanczyk, second by Mr. Belisario. I have, yes, sir.
I'd like to make note that there's a couple typos in this title. It should be the southeast corner, not the southwest corner, and it's on Holly Drive, not Holly Street.
Okay. So noted. We don't need to do anything with that, do we? Okay. We have a motion and a second. Mr. Shane?
Thank you, Mr. Dean. Jeff Shane of the Jones Fussell Law Firm, P.O. Box 1810, Covington. I represent the owner and petitioner, Grandland Covington LLC. This was the appeal that you heard last month concerning our request for NC1 to facilitate a dental office. During the appeal hearing, the petitioner offered to enter into deed restrictions, and at this time I would like to offer into the record, not as a part of your ordinance, but in support of the promise that the petitioner made last month, an executed deed restriction in favor of the lot owners of Evergreen Acres that includes all of the items that we stated and assured the residents of last month. So I tend to this document at this time. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Shane. Okay, any further discussion? All right. Vote with your lights, please.
Motion is unanimous. Mr. Belisario? Motion is unanimous, no one absent.
Okay, now we're to the appointments section. First set of appointments, resolution to appoint one member to replace Teresa Risley. Risley, at least I didn't say Risley again. All right. Teresa Risley, who resigned to the Board of Directors for Fire Protection District 1. Mr. Bender.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I'm going to pass the microphone, but I wanted for the public at home and for the people who sent in their resumes, 5 people sent in, excuse me, 6 people, 6 people sent in their resumes. Most of us who represent a piece of Fire District 1 participated in either reviewing the resumes and/or doing interviews, okay? So I think, Gene, that's probably why you have your light on.
Yes.
If you don't mind, I'll pass it through you to Mr. Belisario.
Mr. Chairman, we had gone through the interview process. That was 9 days ago during the driving rainstorm, and 5 of the 6 members showed up. And after the interview process was completed, myself, Michelle Blanchard, and Steve Stefancic were unanimous in wanting to appoint William Larry Gay to Fire District 1 to replace Ms. Risley, who resigned.
Okay. I have a motion to appoint Mr. Larry Gay. Okay, we have a motion and a second. Do I have any other nominations? Okay, motion to close the nominations, seconded by Mr. Belisario. Okay, so we have a motion. Okay, forward your lights, please, on closing nominations.
Motion is unanimous and no one absent.
Okay, now we can vote on Mr. Larry Gay.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to make one other point. I want to thank the 6 council members who were involved in this process. We came up with some pretty good questions, and there was participation and ranking whoever we wanted to interview. Instead of just interviewing 2 or 3, we decided it was fair to interview all 6 people, and it was a worthwhile effort.
Certainly was.
Motion is unanimous, no one absent.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir.
And I think the group also really wants to thank the 6 people that submitted their nominations. It was
Okay.
a very good group that we interviewed. Thank you.
All right. It's always a hard decision. Second appointment item, resolution to reappoint Ms. Sharon Lowe Drucker, term expired 12/31/15, to the Board of Commissioners for Parish Tourist and Convention Commission.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir.
Yes, having served on the St. Tammany Tourist and Convention Commission for the last couple of years, and 1 year of that too, with Ms. Lowe Drucker, I would like to move to reappoint her back to that commission again.
All right. Thank you, Tim. Okay. Have a motion by Mr. Smith, seconded by Mr. Belisario, to reappoint Ms. Sharon Lowe Drucker. Okay. Let's see, there's a motion. Vote with your lights, please.
Motion is unanimous, one absent.
All right. Third item, resolution to appoint Cynthia Rester and Murphy Arsenault to the Board of Commissioners for Fire Protection District 3 to replace Rock Peterson and A.J. Montalbano, and to reappoint Leo Casnave and Danny McGregor.
Chair,
Mr. Grover.
Ms. Rester has withdrawn from consideration, so I'd like consideration to appoint Murphy Arsenault and reappoint Mr. Montalbano back to the board.
Okay.
Second.
No, he's just leaving Mr. Montalbano on the board and
Yes,
just
yes.
appointing Mr. Murphy Arsenault to replace Mr. Rock Peterson.
We're appointing one and reappointing one.
Okay, so we're appointing one and reappointing another,
Right.
right? Okay.
Other 3.
All right. Mr. Stefancic, you had your light on? Is that your light?
Yeah, I just wanted to make sure we understood we're reappointing 3 members and only changing one of them.
Okay.
A.J. Montalbano will be reappointed.
Yes, I got it. I just need a second for the motion to do that.
Okay, I need a second. Second. Mr. Belisario. All right, vote with your lights, please.
Motion is unanimous, one absent.
Okay, fourth item, resolution to reappoint Rosalie Boudreau, that's a good Louisiana name, to the Board of Commissioner for Fire Protection, District number 2. Mr. Lorino. Okay, a motion by Mr. Lorino. Who was second? Mr. Thompson. All right, vote with your lights, please. the floor agenda.
Oh.
Oh, it is.
Motion is unanimous, one absent.
Mr. Chairman.
Not only. Yes, sir.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to request a brief point of personal privilege before we get to this one
Before we
item
go off the floor. Yes, sir. Go ahead.
Thank you. The council, and I'm sure in the media, received on, I think it was Tuesday afternoon of this week, which I found very interesting and uplifting. And because it appeared when it appeared, we didn't have time to put it on the agenda or ask for comments or whatever. But I think it's a good thing, and I wanted to let the parish president know this. I read the media alert, and I was frankly very, very pleased. And it is the 10 parish presidents, yourself and 9 others, that you were able to, I don't know if corral is the right word, okay? And 5 other parishes represented by either their CAO or another high-ranking official. And Ms. Pat, I wanted to acknowledge this tonight, and I will tell you, the other thing that really caught my eye was the why. And I'm going to read it briefly. The parish presidents from across South Louisiana conducted a regional coalition building idea exchange to discuss many of the pressing and critical issues that our state is facing. And we know that. With the price of oil, we're benefiting from it at the pump. But our state for many, many years, and I'm not going to go into this, but we relied on that quite a bit. I think it's extremely proactive. I think it's fabulous for you to lead this effort at local government level, but a group to come up with some brainstorming, and I simply wanted to acknowledge this tonight, and I really want to thank you, and absolutely I'd love to hear any comments.
Thank you, Mr. Bender. It literally took just a few phone calls to get that many parish presidents. We probably could have gotten more. It was just a time factor because we all are concerned about it. But I will tell you, within 24 hours after that report appeared, I got a call from the governor's office, and we went up there this morning and met with him because he wanted to hear what we had to say. It met with his staff. I don't mean him. But Ben Nevers was there. Many of his other top-level staff were there also. And they wanted to hear what we had to say and what we were concerned about. So we met for about an hour and a half. And I appreciated the opportunity, but it was all because of the report that was in the paper that they called on us. So thank you very much. I appreciate your comments.
No, thank you, Ms. Pat. And if I could just say finally, Mr. Chairman, see, and that's why I wanted to ask, because hearing tonight that a meeting already occurred, and, you know, we think of local funding and so forth, but the state funding that we rely on, many of our roads, bridges, other areas, just say again, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bender. Okay, our next section is items off the floor. Let's see, I need a motion to open the agenda. I have a motion by Mr. Belisario, second by Mr. Stefanczyk to open the agenda for items off the floor. Vote with your lights, please.
Motion is unanimous, one absent.
Okay, the item ordinance amending the official parish zoning map to reclassify 0.5 acres from PBC 1 to HC 3 Ward 1 District 1. Motion by Mr. Thompson, second by Mr. Lorino. Any discussion? Seeing none, vote with your lights, please. Nope. Oh, I'm sorry, there's an introduction. There's an introduction. This was something that was on the zoning commission the other day. Rookie mistake. All right, any other items? Anyone else want to have anything on the off-the-floor agenda? All right, seeing none,
We adjourn.
that's it.